house.
Didn't record it before this, you guys. I screwed up.
That's all right. Even if you can do like, again, a 3-foot setback using front yard averaging, you still have to adhere to the 70% lot coverage requirement.
Okay. So these, it's whatever the greater restriction is.
No, you have to meet both.
We got to meet both.
You have to meet both.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the way it is applied today. You have to meet both.
All right.
Okay. Any other discussions on the slide? Okay, hearing none.
Yeah, detached.
My comment there on 11 was
Right, had to do with 900
yeah,
versus 1400.
yeah. So that really doesn't apply anymore.
I guess you can.
So.
Oh, okay.
Is there there was some question about 25 feet versus 26 feet and what we need to do there, but are we just fine saying 25 feet? Is that?
I think it was a 24 feet,
24 feet. Okay.
Yeah, and that goes back to this, which is,
So,
it's not going to do an unreasonable cost or delay to reduce it by a foot.
Right. So I will just have to argue that finding in my staff report when we go through the amendment process for this to try to keep everything at 24 instead of increasing the minimum to 25.
So what determines if I have a quote unquote single story 900 square feet cottage that goes up 25 feet and I have built in a couple little lofts? What's the definition of a floor? If we're saying a single floor, how do you determine that, Sarah? I don't know. I have no idea.
Interesting.
Well, that's the question. There is a well, it's floor area, Guy, and we have used a definition for floor area before, and that is measured from the exterior walls. And where we most recently had a conversation about that was the ADU ordinance for rural residential zones.
So it doesn't, height has nothing to do with it. It's the external walls.
It's for the area, for the floor area. We've already determined that it's the exterior walls or the interior walls. I've seen it applied both ways. So for right now, there is a limit on the maximum allowance of living space for lots that are less than 3,000 square feet, because you can build on them. And they have setbacks that are very similar to what these setbacks are. And you're limited to 1,200 square feet of living space. And I measure, because it's living space, I measure that from the interior walls.
So
the exterior walls. But in
my example then of a 900 square foot interior wall measurement that also has that covers the first floor, and then I have like 3 lofts for children or something, which will not be caught in that measurement of interior walls, because I got a 25-foot ceiling.
Our space could include a loft.
Okay, do we have to?
We'll have to talk. That's something we're going to have to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you're putting a bedroom up there.
Yeah. And I'm claiming it's not an extra floor. It's only a single floor. Just that I got a loft up there with a bedroom, and it's I got 25 feet to work with.
Well, we can, so that's something we need to think about is, do we want to talk about living space and floor space? Or
Well,
do we
but,
talk
but
about-
what about, yes, but also, isn't there won't the sewer district have a capacity requirement for cottage clusters?
No.
Because you could ideally, you could have 16 people on a cottage cluster. And I can't believe that the lines are built for that. That's a lot of water. That's a lot of sewer for a very small square footage piece of property. Because
And-
like, I know in a septic tank area, they would not say 16 people on a single lot is going to work out for us. Thank you very much. But to me, that's a question for the sewer district because I don't know. That's my question is that an issue for the sewer district? Because it is a potential of 16 people. And
Yeah.
that's also a noise and everything else issue too, but set that aside.
Yeah, I don't know how they determine, I mean, I've never heard of the sewer district saying each hookup can be limited to, 8 people, 10 people. I have no idea. Lori, you're on the sewer district. How do they determine the limit?
I thought that they did have a limit by toilets. I know a lot of jurisdictions do. They allow, like, you have to have your septic or your sewer approve a certain number of toilets, and they often tie the number of bedrooms to the number of toilets they think the household's going to use. But I think it's the toilets that determine the. I'm not positive about that, but I think that it is an issue that we could probably find documented in some jurisdiction.
Yeah.
For on-site septic systems, the size of the system needed is depending, or what controls occupancy is determined by the number of bedrooms. Because it's bedrooms that ultimately determine the number of people that will occupy a structure. You could have 20 toilets and 20 bathrooms, but if you only have 2 bedrooms, right, it's a different ratio. But I think in terms of, I think well, also Lori, I guess I would ask, I know that when I have to have a water and sewer availability letter, the district also has the right to ask that the developer make the improvements needed to the infrastructure to serve the development. So if a larger line was required or a different tie-in, that's something that the districts can ask for and memorialize that in their availability letters to me.
Yeah, and I think the only thing that they would need a larger line is from the dwelling to the street. I mean, the lines in the street are not going to be. I don't think they have a total number that can serve like McMinnville Street or something,
So do we think that most people in a cottage cluster format would just put in 2 stories? They'd have 4 2-story small houses on a 1 residential lot. Because that's a different characteristic to Nesco in certain sections as well. That would be if we are allowing a second story and 900 square feet, that's or just separate the second story issue. But 4 of those on a residential lot in Nesco would be a big change. I
Well,
can't imagine people saying that they thought that was just great.
So Lynn, do you think that would look different than several 4,000 or 3,000 square foot lots together that have homes on them that take up the entire?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just don't know. I think mostly of, I think depending on how much land you have around you, you tend to like Nescoin North is a hodgepodge because we have manufactured housing, we have Octagon House that was built in the 60s. We have all kinds of stuff because there wasn't any. I don't know what the design standards were then, but they seemed pretty random. And so, and some of the lots are small and some of them are big. It's just all random. But in the village, what I'm saying is if you took the village or South Beach and someone has a 1-story house, not on the ocean, just 1-story house, and next door to them is 4 2-story houses. I think that we'll have a very long discussion over that, would be my guess. Because that's just like, I'm happy. I really want housing availability. However, that's a little, it's a big impact. I mean, I've seen these in Portland where there's 4 and they're 2 stories, and I get it, but there are lots of 2 stories in Portland. It's a whole city built on kind of that era of construction, not big land, but big height. And so Nescoin is not all built on big height. It's getting there because of the tearing down of the great old cottages and stuff. But I just think I haven't heard anyone in Nescoin recently talk about just being in love with these houses that are where the bulldozed cottage is gone and the 2-story block shoebox is there. And so visualize that with 4 small shoeboxes.
Well, I think we've already decided that we prefer single story. I mean, so we're kind of already there, I think.
Right.
Village in particular.
Well, I
Right.
think we had said that, but I was just looking in your thing. It said 2 stories.
Yeah,
25. Yeah.
I mean, I hadn't updated it since we talked about it. So I was about to say I could just copy this over and put that on that slide as well.
And I think.
I think it is preferred.
Yeah.
And, I would just say that when we bought our house 40 years ago, if there had been 1 2-bedroom cottage with 1 story, I would have much preferred it. There were none, and there weren't for years. You couldn't get them. I mean, I think one of the things I'm concerned about is we're going to create the most desirable housing that Nescoin's seen in a long time. But set that aside. I just think we can't take the game has changed, and we all support that. The state law, that's great. But we should be doing everything we do to also make present property owners feel like their interests are represented too, because we're trying to do this for everyone, not make one group annoyed at the expense of another, or one disenfranchised because of. So just saying, in this slide, I would be supportive of 1 story and 900 square feet, 1 story, and I'd be fine with a loft, as long as it's not 2 stories, not a big block of a house.
Okay, so I made those notations on this and took off the previous concern about the difference. So is that okay? This okay? What you got on the screen?
Sarah, is it possible I'm trying to think of a way around this. I can build a 1-story 900 square foot, 25 feet high, and do various things with my interior to create more living space. Is it possible that we could reduce the 25-foot maximum to something in the neighborhood of 50? I would have to figure out the slope or something, but
So,
15 feet.
So Guy, my understanding and talking to the consultants is that at a cottage cluster, we can require them to be single story.
I
So
understand, but the 25-foot is the problem.
So why don't we record, what is single story, Sarah? Is that 18 feet?
So typically it's 17 or 18 feet. So
Let's put that in.
I got that added to my list.
Okay.
So the other thing is floor area is defined in the model code on page 3. And it would include a loft because floor area includes stairwells, ramps, shafts, chases. and the area devoted to garages and structured parking.
Well, that's great. So then I would say, let's make it the standard 17 feet or whatever the single single story is, and we'll do the floor measurement the way the code says, so, yeah.
Yeah,
So what should I write here?
17.
full story at 17. Yep,
And we're not maintaining that though.
Yeah, we are requiring for cottage clusters 17 feet maximum height.
so I've got that in mind, and I would say Tom just also, I think his slides were information only, so it's good that we're putting our own notes on them, because when Tom and I had talked to, we had talked about 25 feet not being.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is literally just what was there. And I tried to identify any times I'd put something which was not on the original. And
right.
so what's in red here is what is our comments on it.
Very
Do
good.
anybody disagree with what I've got here?
Not me.
Nope.
Okay,
Thank you. I'm glad we
Work
caught
through that. Yeah, that was good.
okay. Okay, off-street parking. There's a lot on parking.
Yeah.
Man.
I mean, it's
Now,
a third of the,
How
Go ahead.
how can we have something that's zero in a community that values bikes and walking?
yeah, I have heartburn about that myself.
Yeah. I mean, it's not working in Portland. I just have to tell you, it's not working at all.
My recommendation,
And our streets are considerably narrower.
Yes.
so the most that we can ask for is one space per unit.
That's what we need to ask for.
I agree, yep.
So
Well, it
that's,
says per 1,000 feet or more. So should we say we prefer one per our 900?
Yeah.
This is cottage clusters only.
Yep,
so how does
Yeah.
that,
Okay,
how does that look on a lot? Even a 7,500 square foot lot? When you've got a maximum driveway width on the street front, where are these cars gonna go? Because you got what, a 20-foot, I don't have it in front of me, 20-foot or something, and it can only be it can be no more than 1/4 of the front. Can be no bigger than 20. Sarah, you know all this stuff, I don't.
yeah,
But go ahead.
there's a good diagram guide on page 30, and I would say this is where, depending on the number and size and orientation, it will be up to the developer to make it fit.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it may make them not choose some areas over others, because without the parking, we're shooting ourselves in the foot. We're allowing something that just doesn't work in these small streets.
Now, one question for you, if we have to bump the cottage size up to 1,000 square feet to ensure that one parking space per unit,
Yeah,
are we good with that? When I talk to the consultant?
I would be.
I'd be
Yeah.
happy with that. 900 versus 1,000 is not that big a deal to me.
The 100,
To
it's
me.
well, and when you look at floor area, that includes porches and different things. Right, like, cause I think we're not thinking that broad of term either. If it includes if it has to include the porch. You want a little porch on your cottage cluster, that goes into your calculation as well.
Oh,
Is
really?
there-
Okay.
Yeah,
Is there any example of people putting their porches on their roofs in these things?
not that I have seen, but when you look at the definitions of floor area and floor space. It talks about. Let's see, let me go back. What it talks about is rooftop parking room. Floor area does not include rooftop parking. Floor area means the total area of all floors of a building. It is measured from each floor, the exterior faces of a building or structure. It includes stairwells, ramps, shafts, chases, and the area devoted to garages and structured parking. Oh, excuse me, it does not include roofed porches, balconies, or other areas unless they are enclosed by walls that are more than 42 inches in height for 75% of their perimeter.
Hmm.
So what's the curlers, Rand? They have 42 inches around that rooftop porch? I can't remember.
I don't think so. I think it's about 36, but there may be a railing height
Yeah,
that determines that. What's a
Yeah.
railing height requirement, Sarah? A balcony
That
or?
one more time, Rand, please.
Okay, so there's a house in Portland, in Nesquin, guy's referring to that has a roof deck.
Uh-huh.
Is the height of the surrounding wall more than 42 inches, and I think it's 36, but then it would be a standard railing height requirement. It is solid.
Right, and so our height calculations now exempt things like rooftop decks.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
but that's something, I'm gonna make a note about that because we should talk about that and what that means.
Right.
Okay. That's because, yeah, if it's a standard railing at 36 inches or even 48, but it's not living space or habitable space, then we don't calculate those into our building heights already.
Hmm.
But I think that's something, I mean, as we're going through this, I feel like there's a lot of different areas in the ordinance in and of itself that are just gonna be refined and clarified.
yeah.
So I'm gonna.
Okay,
make-
do I need to make a note of that here? I'm not quite sure how this fits into,
Uh,
this slide fits into that discussion.
Tom, I'll make it a note on my stuff for us to continue to noodle on.
Okay,
Yeah, and this says that, that picture you showed us at our last meeting, Sarah, of that cluster it was in another coastal area where they had the parking all stuck together. The person who has a 7,500 square lot and a 900 max, they have some options on how they can place those things. And being kind of setting tight boundaries, but giving the license to be creative in how they place these things, I think seems to me would be helpful. But I think the parking thing is just a necessary.
Yeah.
The no parking place has made everyone else, for example, there's one in Portland right now where there is no parking. And so they have 5 cars parked on the street that didn't used to be there. And it means that no one else can have, I mean, it just creates a community problem that you don't need to create if you just give one parking space, particularly because we're not an employment center. There isn't a
Right.
TriMet bus system in Nescoin.
Right.
So people are going to work. A lot of them are going to have to get in their cars to get there.
Mhm.
okay,
Tom, can I do a share screen real quick?
sure.
Okay. So this is this is in the Rockaway Spring Lake area. So I think like especially with the diagram that Tom was just showing, these units would actually, this would meet a cottage cluster. But I'll show you this. So here's the highway. You come in. Oh, am I sharing the right screen? No.
I see a parking lot.
Oh, okay, I guess I was. Okay. So yeah, I'll show you guys this just to kind of, so let's say one of those larger lots. The private road comes in and traverses through the area. All of the garages, so these are all 1-car garage, and they actually have a little driveway with them, so there's actually room for 2, is on one side, and then these are all of the attached units across the street, the private street. So everybody just walks out, and then behind them is the lake. But I think that this is something in terms of the parking, etc., that is a model that could be used.
Yes. And is that in Devil's Lake? Where is that?
No, this is in Rockaway. It's.
Oh, okay.
North of Twin Rocks Friends Camp.
Yep,
It's on the highway.
that's
So
a
does-
great model.
Does that work with the common space that the clusters are supposed to be around a common space?
So the common space is in the back
Okay.
around the lake, and then they have their road, and actually the common space is through, like, it's the garage, each unit of the garage, the property, the line of the cottage cluster is actually just right in front of each of those garages. And then right in front of each of the units. So the rest of this, like, this is open space, and the open space traverses through here, and there's another area back here that you can't see. But what they've also done is they've incorporated, like, for fire turnaround. Right, so there's areas for fire trucks to maneuver through here, because it's pretty tiny, but I mean, they made it work. So I just
Nice.
wanted to show you guys that real quick.
Yep, thank you.
I think, yeah, that really, like, so Tom, if you put your image back up, I think with that kind of a visual, you could see something very similar. Because if they have to do an interior road, the road is still going to have to meet design standards for fire. And what they did was they actually put additional driveway area within the right of way to encourage additional parking.
Doesn't it say somewhere that that common courtyard area can't have vehicle access?
Right.
So in this case,
Right.
they've got one here, which you could do over here too, Lori. I just wanted to show like what that looks like when you have a parking area and all the units. Parking's on one side and the units are on the other.
And the common courtyard in that other one basically is on the lake, so it has no vehicle access.
Right.
Yeah,
And I guess the common courtyard doesn't have to have, in that definition, can just be basically people's backyards.
mhm.
They share a big yard.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Cool.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, I've always liked that. I thought that was a nice one.
So let me interject here that I have to leave for physical therapy, but Lainey will continue with the meeting and stop the recording and end the meeting whenever you guys want to end the meeting.
Well, I have to leave for an event and at 4:15. So I won't be able to take minutes after that. So, and I think we should wrap it up, and we have another meeting scheduled, I believe.
Right.
And,
Yeah,
I think this gives us quite a bit to come back to, don't you?
sure.
Yeah, we can start at design standards. We have design development requirements, and here's the logical breakpoint for design standards. So
Okay.
that's where we'll
Perfect.
pick it up next time.
Okay.
Yeah, I made quite a few slides there, didn't I? Okay, so I'll put
Well,
a,
good.
No, all good, Tom.
Yeah, no, it makes it makes it manageable.
Yes, it's wonderful.
Yeah. So you guys can keep going until you hit that slide. Is that correct?
oh, you were already there. I mean,
We're
that's
there.
the stuff.
Oh, okay.
So I think we should adjourn.
All right. I got it.
Okay.
Okay, well.
So what I'll do is I'll add a slide here, a title slide, so you can find it easily where we're going to start next. And then I've already made the notations, and that'll be R1, which I'll upload later today.
Fantastic.
Great.
Right.
That's
Well-
good work. Thank you, Sarah and Tom, so much. That really, really clarified what our options are and what their impacts are. Not wholly, but the combination of the map and putting some numbers to what we really think meets everyone's needs is very productive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's a very good process and a lot of good discussion. So thank you all. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. And here we go. Thank you very much.
Okay?
Happy New
Bye.
Year,
Take care.
Happy New
everyone.
Year, everybody.
Happy
Happy New
Happy
Year.
New Year.
New Year.
Thank you. Bye.
Go
Bye.
Ducks.
Bye.